So we're picking up from the end of the previous chapter with Fushiguro continuing to talk about the calling game to Yuji. And it boils down to Fushiguro asking for his help, and that triggers Itadori's memory of his grandfather saying, "You're a strong kid, so help people." One of the main foundations for Yuji's motivations going into this series. And then Yuji, talking to Okkotsu, finally says out loud that Sukuna is plotting something involving Fushiguro. Because before this, it was always kind of an internal monologue to Sukuna, and by proxy known to the audience. But then he says, "He probably took over my body in Shibuya because I ate 10 fingers all at once. I have ingested 15 so far. Even if I ate all remaining 5 in one go, I doubt he'd be able to take control." But then he says something really exciting here, which I think is setting up a future event in the series, or at least I hope it is. "If I ever switch with Sukuna again, don't hesitate to kill me. I think you could do that." So considering that was just said, I'm almost positive it means it's going to happen now, right? Meaning that Sukuna is obviously going to take over Yuji again at some point in the story, but not only that, he likely will face off against Okkotsu. And now that Yuji has firsthand felt the power of Okkotsu, regardless if he was holding back or not, he now kind of thinks that Okkotsu could defeat a full power Sukuna, even though Yuji doesn't understand what the full power of Sukuna truly is. Or at least I assume that he doesn't. I mean, how could he? But as I said, that leads us to a full-powered Sukuna versus Okkotsu. Pretty sure this is going to happen now, and it's going to be incredible, of course, but what I'm thinking is going to be the result of this is Okkotsu jobbing to full power Sukuna, and that makes sense to me because how else would that really establish the overwhelming threat that a full power Sukuna would represent? Because think about it, he comes out, we finally see he's at his full power now. And it's like, okay, how can we really establish how powerful he is right now? If outside from him, like just one-shotting a city or something, have him go against a character that the audience already respects fully and holds in a extremely high regard, kind of like in the same tier almost as Gojo. So they have a little back and forth, and then Sukuna defeats Okkotsu, then that really establishes like, oh my God, he is so powerful. The only way that we can stop him right now is to unseal Gojo, which they also talk about, and we'll get to that. But I'm just super excited for this because like I said, it does seem like it's going to happen now. And Yuji asks Megumi, like, what should I do? And then Megumi says, first we'll go back to Jujutsu High and contact Master Tengen. We need to find out how to remove the seal on the prison realm. Also, what are Noritoshi Kamo's concrete objectives and future moves? So as I was saying, they're going to try to figure out how to remove the prison realm from Gojo because obviously they kind of have to. That's like a big deal here. And that brings me to another future matchup that I'm nearly positive is going to happen as well, and that's Gojo getting unsealed from the prison realm, and he's eventually going to face off against full-powered Sukuna. Now, who's going to win that? I don't know. You know, it's really up in the air right now, but it's just something that we can look forward to nonetheless. So then Yuji says maybe Tsukumo knows, and Fushiguro says, I already spoke to her. This was actually her idea, and she's hiding in Jujutsu High as well because she wants to avoid the higher-ups, like she's against them in similar fashion that Gojo is. And then Okkotsu says, the problem is Master Tengen's concealing barrier. Over 1,000 doors are continually shuffling, but only one leads to the Tomb of the Star Corridor where Master Tengen resides. And it seems that like Master Tengen was able to create like a Jujutsu blockchain. At least that's the way it seems from the description here. Then Yuji drops the bombshell and he's like, what happened to Kugisaki? And then either Fushiguro doesn't answer or just we the audience don't hear it, and Yuji like clenches his fist and says, oh, I get it, I get it. So like I said, either he did respond or his lack of a response led Yuji to assume the worst. Now going back to Geji's interview from a couple weeks ago, he said Nobara canonically died when Mahito hit her with their technique, but whether she is alive or dead remains up in the air. Her suffering, the loss of her eye, all of it was done for Yuji to despair. So your guess is as good as mine. I'm going to assume she's probably alive, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if she's dead too, but I'm thinking she's alive. Then Chozo randomly comes in and he's like, about that barrier, there may be a way past it. Mahito once stole Sukuna's fingers and the death painting wounds, right? We could do the same thing. Then I guess we're cutting back to Jujutsu High here and we're seeing Maki. Maki is in fact alive. Her fate was kind of up in the air before this chapter, and she has like a haircut now, understandable because of I guess the burns and whatnot. And she's looking more similar to Toji, but she also has like a whole bunch of burns on her face and I guess on her arms and body as well. End result of what happened with Jogo. And Tsukumo says it can't be helped with burn scars. Even reverse curse technique leaves a mark. I'd expect nothing less from someone physically gifted through heavenly restriction. It was her inborn physical toughness, not curse tolerance, that saved her life. So then they go more into how to get past Tengen's barrier, and Chozo says between the doors and the tomb lies the cursed warehouse where Jujutsu High stores cursed objects and tools, and inside of there are the remaining cursed wounds. And he says with them being together, the side effect of his cursed technique, he should like be able to sense them so they have some kind of marker of where to actually go. So that's how they're just gonna bypass all this stuff. Chozo can just become a radar for them. And then Maki's like, well, that's fine, but who's this guy? And Yuji says, for now, think of him as my big brother. So I'm pretty sure this is the first time that Yuji is calling Chozo his brother. And this might be because of the memory or the flashback that Yuji had in the previous chapter as a baby, remembering his mother having the stitches on her head. So maybe he's putting two and two together and like, well, I guess we are coming from the same person, the brain. So in a way, we are brothers. I mean, at the minimum, I guess they're kind of like stepbrothers, right? So then it's just a hard cut to them in front of the door leading to Tengen's barrier here. So they open them and they go inside and we start seeing like that indoor forest that we were introduced to in the Gojo's past arc. So as they're walking through this, I guess Chozo spots the warehouse that he was talking about that has the cursed wounds in it. And then I guess he's going in there to get them. And then Yuji says Chozo, and Chozo says, I know, I'll return, just wait a little longer. Then they start walking towards the elevator and Yuji looks down and says, bloodstains, what happened here? And Tsukumo says it was 11 years ago, now that I think about it. That's when everything began to get distorted. So the bloodstains, I guess, belong to Riko from Toji taking her out. And I guess this means there was like no jujitsu janitor that went down there to clean it up. So then they eventually get to this hallway and they walk into like this big blank white space. And Tsukumo says Tengen doesn't interfere with this world, but I thought contact was possible now that the 6 eyes are sealed. I was too optimistic. Maybe it isn't rejecting all of us, but only me. Then we hear this voice saying, leaving so soon? It's a pleasure to meet you. Then they turn around and Master Tengen is there. Then he says, child of Zenin. I assume he's talking about Maki and Fushiguro here. Michizani's descendant, referring to Okkotsu, because that was revealed in volume 0 that Gojo and Okkotsu come from this guy from back in the day named Michizani, like one of the big 3 vengeful spirits, I think he was referred to as. Death wound painting, obviously Chozo. And then he says Sukuna's vessel, clearly Yuji. And that's where the chapter ends, but we're seeing Tengen, and he looks nothing like what I, or I guess anyone else expected. He's like, looks like a curse, I guess, right? So what do we make of this? This may or may not be his literal form, or maybe this is how he chooses to appear in front of them, or maybe this is like some kind of projection technique or something, or maybe it's some kind of cursed corpse, or maybe a shikigami or something. I guess we're just at this point led to believe that this is actually what Tengen looks like. So why does he look like this? I have no idea. But considering that he's so old, I guess it has something to do with that, and maybe just advanced jujitsu allows him to look like this or something, because this also reminded me of Sukuna. Because on one of the chapter cover pages, we got to see what Sukuna actually looked like in his prime. And he also had like 4 eyes and 4 arms, but it was specifically stated that he wasn't a curse when he was alive. He's actually a human. And clearly Sukuna is beyond powerful. You know, he's like one of the strongest guys to ever live. And it's also implied that Sukuna has access to knowledge of jujitsu that nearly no one else does, at least currently living. So it's possible that like when you get so powerful in jujitsu, you start gaining like another ability where you can like grow more eyes or grow more arms, or you can like, I don't know, integrate your body with like what could be considered like a cursed spirit or something. It'd It may have something to do with that, something along the lines, because like I said, the 4 eyes and Tengen, I guess, still being a human to some extent, there may be some connection here. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the next chapter maybe, but let me know what you think about this one in the comments. If you like the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.